Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and today's video is going to be my delivery story and right before I got to the hospital. So I'm going to explain my experience for other mothers, teen mothers. So let's get on talking about my experience. It was a Sunday when I started my contractions, which I thought they were cramps, and they were like 30-40 minutes apart. I didn't know what contractions felt like. They weren't like hurting me really bad or nothing at all. Thankfully, I had it all easy enough for me, especially how much anxiety I went through this whole process. So it was a Sunday that my contractions started. Then I waited and stayed at home. I waited and stayed at home till Wednesday. So it went from Sunday to Wednesday. And that's when I waited finally to go to the hospital. And the contractions were 3 to 5 minutes apart. I called my OBGYN, I called the hospital. They said, well, those sound like contractions. You need to go to the hospital. I said, okay. It was around 12 o'clock at night. It was around midnight or 11:30ish, and then I got to the hospital at midnight. I got in there, and like I was walking completely fine. The contractions, when they came, they were just like period cramps to me. They weren't like super bad. So, I mean, I was walking completely fine. They sat me in a little tiny room, and they checked if I was dilated, and they asked me all kinds of questions, and I was sitting there shaking because, once again, 17, tiny body, I'm about to push a baby out my vagina. So I was laying there. They didn't put me in like the delivery room yet or anything. I was just laying there waiting for papers and stuff to come in, and I had to sign a couple things. But I was 6 centimeters dilated by the time I waited from Sunday to Wednesday. I was 6 centimeters dilated when I arrived at the hospital. So right after they found out that I was 6 centimeters dilated, they put an IV in. They put the IV in the weirdest place. Like, I've never had an IV here, but they put an IV, like, right on the side of my wrist. So they put an IV in, and then they took me to the delivery room. Delivery room was humongous, luxurious. And I was just sitting up at 6.5 centimeters now, sitting up eating ice chips, and no epidural, no nothing, just completely fine, and talking to the nurses. They said I wasn't human, but a lot of women get to 1 centimeter and they're on the floor rolling. I mean, one of my friends that had a baby, she was 6 centimeters when she went to the hospital. So they got me down, and then they checked if I was dilated again, and by the time I was 7 centimeters, and then they told me, well, if you want an epidural, we can go ahead and plan it for you. You can choose when you want it, but you can't have it after 8 to 9 centimeters. I was like, well, I don't feel nothing right now, and I want to do it. I think I can do it without an epidural. My water hasn't broken yet, and I was 7 centimeters dilated. And I was so terrified, so much anxiety after they started telling me I was getting closer and closer to 10 centimeters. So they're like, okay, well, we're going to break your water for you. And I was like, okay. And they took out this long rod. And I was like, we're not doing that. I want to do it naturally. So they told me to walk it around the hospital to naturally break my water. It helped a tiny, tiny, tiny bit. I was 7.5 centimeters when I got in there. I had the baby the same day I got there. So, what? So, after that, I was like, okay, well, before I chicken out at the very last minute and I can't get the epidural, go ahead and bring the epidural in here for me. So they put me on the epidural. I had the worst anxiety ever. I thought epidurals could paralyze you. Epidurals can make you nauseated. And that's my worst fear, is throwing up. Throwing up and having a C-section. A lot of mothers do C-sections because they can't have a normal delivery with vaginal delivery. And the ones who have C-sections are strong AF. Okay, so credits to y'all. So they told me to scrunch my back up and to put the epidural in. They put the numbing medicine first, and then they did the whole epidural. It took 15 to 20 minutes. So they inserted my epidural. It kicked in maybe like 20 minutes, but it was barely working. I still feel my cramps or contractions, but the contractions weren't bad. So I really didn't need the epidural. I was just wanting the epidural just in case I chicken out at the last minute like I usually would. So after that, they said, well, since you can't feel anything, would you be scared for us to break your water? I said, no, go ahead, because I was feeling all right. I didn't feel nauseated. So go ahead, break my water. So I was like, okay, well, I don't know what's coming for me. Just go ahead and break my water. I mean, if it's okay now, it'll be okay then. So they broke my water. Weirdest feeling, but my contractions got worse and worse. And I immediately went to 9 centimeters, less than 30 minutes. So my very, 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 very last contraction I had while the epidural was in, I kept telling the nurses to dose it all the way up, dose it all the way up, dose it all the way up. My very last contraction that I had before I started pushing, I was in tears. And it's not a feeling that I can explain. But I would feel nauseated, and they told me I wouldn't feel nauseated because they gave me medicine for it, and it did not work. And I felt nauseated, and I was crying. They tried positioning me. It didn't work out. And I was like, okay, well, I feel pressure on my back. Crap's about to go down. It's about to get real in this room. So they were like, okay, well, we're going to bring all the nurses. And there's like 4, 5, 6 different people in there, which was kind of uncomfortable because, you know, I'm not used to that. Everybody looking at me down there when I have my legs spread open and there's a baby about to come out of my vagina. So they're like, Brianna, it's time to push. Once I hear those words coming out my doctor's mouth, I go crazy. My body and hands start shaking like crazy. My body and hands start shaking. I'm crying almost. And then I just start thinking about every single thing. And this is the time where we had a puppy at the house while I was in the hospital. And I got really close to the puppy. I was having such bad anxiety. I was crying over saying, I miss the dog, I miss the puppy, I miss the puppy, I miss the puppy. And then they're sitting here spreading my legs open, and I'm about to push my baby out, and I'm sitting here worrying about a dog at my house. So once I started pushing, I told them right before I started pushing, I told them that I needed more medicine in my epidural because it was not working. Epidural did everything worse for me. Everything worse. So they brung a whole nother separate syringe of medicine. Like a syringe like that fat and like that long. And they shot on my epidural. That thing kicked in 10 minutes. I couldn't feel nothing. And I mean nothing. I couldn't feel when I was pushing. I couldn't feel when they said the head was right, about to come out. I couldn't feel anything. And so about 25, 30 minutes, Messiah Ray popped out. It was the crazy experience. I was crying my eyes out. I couldn't believe I'd done it. This is the biggest, best thing I've ever accomplished in life. I carried a healthy baby for 9 months. I mean, the whole process was beautiful. And I am most beyond happy that I went through an experience. I've had a good experience. I mean, it was the best day of my life. And the first moments the baby hit my chest and heard his little first cry, I bawled out. Because literally after I had my baby, thankfully my stomach went down completely flat, no stretch marks on my stomach. I am blessed of that. A lot of women don't get to have that at the end, but I think it's just my genetics. 40 minutes after I had that baby, I was up and walking to the bathroom by myself. I got up way too quick, and they were like, whoa, slow down. Like, you can feel your legs? I was like, yeah, I'm fine. The only bad thing is when I first peed, that crap hurt. Let me tell you. Oh my God. And you wouldn't believe of how much blood you will be bleeding after popping out a baby. So my experience was pretty good. I had an easy delivery, I would say, and I personally think, in general, for me, I think my next child, I could do without an epidural. Women are strong enough to do without an epidural. A long time ago, they didn't have an epidural, so I know a woman can do it. I have friends that did it without an epidural, and it was amazing. So at 7:59 a.m., I had 6 pounds and 12 ounces, 19 and a half inches, pops out little Mr. Messiah. Messiah for Lexi. He's kind of grumpy right now because he just woke up. So I hope my story and experience helps you in the future. But I will see y'all next time. Thank you for watching.